Picture this: the late 19th century Europe. A movement is born. A movement with a goal to establish a Jewish state in the land known as Palestine. Emerging from the heart of Europe, this movement was more than just a political agenda. It was a dream, a shared vision, a collective yearning of a people who had been scattered across the globe for centuries. This was Zionism. Zionism originated as a response to the widespread persecution of Jews across Europe. It was an aspiration for self-determination, a longing for a homeland where they could live free from the fear of discrimination and violence. And the land they set their hearts on was Palestine, the biblical homeland of the Jewish people. The Zionists aimed to transform this dream into reality through a two-pronged approach. First, by encouraging mass Jewish immigration to Palestine. Thousands upon thousands of Jews left their homes in Europe, braving the uncertainties of a new land, driven by the promise of a national homeland. The second approach was land acquisition. The Zionists believed that to establish a Jewish state, they needed to control the land. And so, they began to buy up property, often from absentee landlords who lived far from Palestine. This process, however, led to the displacement of the indigenous Palestinians, who had been living on and tilling this land for centuries. As the Jewish population in Palestine increased, so too did the tensions with the local Palestinian population. These tensions would eventually ignite into a conflict that continues to shape the Middle East to this day. This movement, this dream, it was called Zionism, and it would forever change the face of the Middle East. Fast forward to 1917, a document emerges known as the Balfour Declaration. This was a statement issued by the British government during World War I, in the form of a letter from Arthur Balfour, the then British Foreign Secretary, to Lionel Walter Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community. It expressed Britain's support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, a region then under Ottoman control, but soon to come under British administration. The Balfour Declaration, while ambiguously worded, had profound implications. It was the first time a world power had endorsed the Zionist movement's aspirations, giving it a legitimacy it had hitherto lacked. This declaration planted the seeds of a conflict that has yet to find resolution a century later. Following the end of World War I, Britain took control of Palestine. The British rule was marked by contradictory commitments to both the Arab and Jewish populations. To the Arabs, it had promised self-rule and respect for their rights. To the Jews, it had promised a national home. These conflicting promises were like two trains set on a collision course. During this time, the Palestinian population, the indigenous people of the land, found themselves increasingly marginalized. The balance of the population began to shift as Jewish immigration, fueled by the horrors of the Holocaust and European anti-Semitism, surged. As Jewish immigration increased, so too did tensions and violence. The growing Jewish presence, facilitated by British rule and the Balfour Declaration, led to growing resentment among the Arab population. The stage was set for decades of conflict. The land of ancient peoples and holy sites was about to be consumed by a modern struggle, one that would shape the Middle East for the century to come. World War II leaves the world in ruins, but from the ashes, diplomatic support for the Zionist movement emerges from an international powerhouse, the United States. As the smoke of the Second World War began to clear, the world was left to grapple with the aftermath. Amidst the rubble and the ruins, the United States emerged as a global superpower. The war had not only reshaped the world's political landscape, but also had a profound impact on the Zionist movement. The United States, in its newfound position, extended its support to the Zionist movement. This was a significant turning point, as it gave the movement the international backing it needed to further its cause. The United States recognized the Zionist movement's aspirations and the plight of the Jewish people, who had endured the horrors of the Holocaust. This recognition led to a sharp increase in Jewish immigration to Palestine, further bolstering the Zionist efforts. However, this surge in immigration led to an escalation in tensions and violence. The indigenous Palestinians found themselves increasingly marginalized as Jewish immigrants arrived in large numbers. The land they had called home for generations was slowly but surely being taken away from them. The Zionists, backed by the United States, were able to further establish their position in the region. The balance of power had shifted, and the Zionist dream of a Jewish state in Palestine was becoming a reality. However, this reality came at a significant cost. The displacement of indigenous Palestinians continued unabated, leading to a deepening crisis. Their homes, their lands, their very way of life was being threatened. The dream of one group was being realized at the expense of another's nightmare. The Zionist dream had become a reality, but at what cost? The story of Zionism and the occupation of Palestine is one of dreams, conflict, and displacement. As we've journeyed through this narrative, we've unearthed the roots of Zionism, delved into the Balfour Declaration, and explored the United States' post-World War II support. But at the heart of this tale lies the indigenous Palestinian population, whose lives were irrevocably changed by these events. The establishment of a Jewish state, the mass Jewish immigration, and the land acquisition initiatives all led to the displacement of Palestinians. Their opposition, their struggles, their resilience, these form the other side of this historical coin. As Jewish immigration surged, the Palestinian population found themselves increasingly marginalized, their homeland transforming before their eyes. The tension and violence that arose from these circumstances continue to echo in the region today. But what does this mean for the future of Palestine? What does this mean for those who call it home? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below.